Welcome group. We're still coming in. As you find your spot, if you will, rename yourself with your chapter, please. Put your chapter name. There you go. Thank you for adding your chapter name. That helps us know where our 15 chapters are. We're going to wait one more second until we get everybody in. Everybody rename themselves with the name of your chapter, please. Thank you, Thomas, for putting your Tennessee identification there in the chat. We're waiting to get started. We've got Houston here. Kelly, thank you. All right, it is the top of the hour, and so we are going to get started. Welcome today. You may be expecting to see Angie today up in the little Hollywood Square, but it's Karen Anderson from ICF North Florida up in Angie Square today. She is traveling in the air right now on her way to Texas to do some wonderful work for the International Coaching Federation work. So we're glad to have you present with us, ready for our session today. Why would we want to come together as a group? Dale, if you'll advance the slide, please, to the next one. There are 15 chapters here in the Southeast region, and we get to collaborate together. We get to have some continuous learning with one another. We get to interact and engage with one another. Those conversations are so wonderful and supportive of one another. And then we get high quality professional development that we have right within the expertise of our own chapters. So welcome to the Southeast Regional Webinar Series. We're ready to get started today. I'm Karen Anderson with the ICF North Florida chapter, and it is our turn today to bring the program to you. So what is that program today? That program is on systemic team coaching, and we will be looking at Mastery Unveiled, a dynamic 90-minute exploration with our wonderful presenter, Dale Beaman. And we'll be learning more about Dale momentarily. There's a bio here, which I will not read to you about Dale. Instead, what I'd like to do is to tell you a couple of things about this wonderful person that I happen to know. First of all, let's talk about Dale the professional. She is a dedicated coach. She's celebrating her 20th year in business. She has been the president of the ICF North Florida chapter, and she continues to give to the chapter and to the community. Excuse me. I do have a little head complication today. So Dale. All right. So sorry, I apologize for that. She has earned, most recently, Dale has earned the Global Team Coaching Institute's Practitioner Award. So she's about to graduate as a senior practitioner from team coaching. She is all about transformational impact, and her ultimate goal is to cultivate thriving workplaces and healthy communities where people are fully engaged in making a bigger difference in the world. On a more personal note, who is Dale without her business card? She is a caring and compassionate daughter, friend, coach. She sees the humanness in all of us. She is a consummate learner, as evidenced by her bio. And most recently, she has fallen in love with a little dog named Sammy. So that's a little bit about who this person is that is joining us today for this wonderful program. We ask.
And Karen, are you frozen? Yeah.
So here are
Karen, would you like for me to take it?
Please go.
Oh, thank you, Karen. And it is such a pleasure to be here. And what the intention today is to share with you how systemic team coaching distinguishes itself and what its transformational potential. We all as coaches want to help in the transformation process, particularly the world that we have today, we live in today. I'm going to also share frameworks for guiding teams toward creating greater value with and for stakeholders. And then talk about ways to amplify your coaching presence and embody a coaching mindset, which it's critical in any coaching engagement, but becomes even more critical and challenging in a team situation. And so today, just to set our presence, I want to invite you to be fully present, and if there's something you need to put aside, invite you to do so you can really get the benefit, and to listen with curiosity. Maybe you'll hear some things that are new. Maybe you'll hear some things that you've heard many times. You could be curious. Maybe there's something deeper you might be seeking to learn. Judgment free. I'm going to invite, certainly I'm not going to have judgment, invite you to that as well. And to also share airtime. I'm hoping that we might have some time to share, and want to invite that opportunity and to do so with sharing the time. And so with that, and I'd like to take a reflective moment to help us get grounded in being totally present. So if you would just take a moment with me, and I'm going to invite you, if it's comfortable for you, to close your eyes or to gaze down. And just know that people might be beeping in, and just allow those beeps to settle you into being even more present. So let's all just take a deep breath together. Again, if you'd like to gaze down or close your eyes if you're comfortable. And just take a deep breath in. And just feel your feet on the ground, supporting you. And if your legs are crossed, you may want to uncross them just to be grounded. And feel yourself sitting in your chair or on a sofa, and feel yourself being supported. And just take another deep breath. And I'd like for you just to imagine Imagine letting go of everything that's happened before and just to open your mindset to curiosity. And just breathe in curiosity. And now I want to invite you to come down to your heart. Just be aware of your heart center. You might be aware of caring and compassion. You might even bring somebody to mind or an animal to mind that you feel a sense of care for, and just feeling that care and compassion. You might even let it radiate out into your body and bring it with you on our journey together. And then moving down to your gut, you might feel a sense of courage there, and you might bring to mind a time that you've been courageous. You bring that to mind, and allowing you to bring courage into this space. Just take another deep breath and bring a sense of appreciation to yourself for showing up, the desire to grow, the desire to bring transformation to the world. And now take another deep breath in and feeling a sense of appreciation of all those who are here with you. And bringing that appreciation back into the space. And coming back into the space, and maybe a sense of gratitude for being here. And thank you. Thank you. So glad that you're here, and we have a wonderful opportunity to be together. And I am curious to begin with, what is it that brought you here? What inspired you to attend? And I just invite you to put it in the chat, one or two words. What inspired you to be here? And Karen, if you'd read what you're seeing. What has brought you here today? Karen, you're on mute, I think.
Curiosity, learning, interested in additional strategies. Boy, they're full of things that are the reasons. Systems and group focus, how to coach my ergonomic team at work, interest in new information, an uptick in corporate gigs asking for team-based coaching events.
Mm-hmm.
So
Isn't
real
that true?
interest. Yes. Starting a mastermind for women working in tech and media, a belief in the power of teams, a desire to learn. Lots of reasons for being here, Dale.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to just take a quick poll, and Karen, if you could drop it, I'd like to know where you are on your team coaching journey. Are you just exploring it today? You haven't gotten there yet? Maybe you've been doing it for 1 to 3 years. Maybe you've been in it for longer, 4 to 10 years or 10 plus years. Maybe it's your main business. What is it that's brought you here? Where are you on your journey? Yeah.
We're still looking for a few more, higher percentage. We have 75%, up to
Okay.
78, 80% now. Great. Coming
Okay.
on in.
All right.
All right, I'm going to end the poll, Dale, with
Fantastic. And
81%.
hopefully,
81%. Here are the results.
okay.
All right, so 55.
Can everybody see? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And so I see a number of you all are exploring, and we also have some very seasoned people in the room. So I just invite you to, for those that are new and exploring, I love the curiosity that you can bring and give us new perspective. And those that have been in it for a long time to bring your seasoned experience and to share as you'll have some opportunities to do that either through chat and in some of the experiences that we'll be having. So thank you so much for that. Did you share the results, Karen? Can they see? I think. There we go. All right. So let's move on, and I'd like to just share a little bit about what got me into this. I've been working with teams for many years. I spent many years in the corporate world leading large-scale projects, transformational projects that would really, they would change the way we do business. And one of the things that I knew is that there was oftentimes a lot of disorder in projects. Those were kind of the hard teams to work with. Anybody relate? If you relate to that confusion disorder, you can raise your hand. Yeah. And then there might be people that kind of know their own way and they're trying to make an individual impact in isolation, and we're going all different directions. And then there's something a bit better. There's a coordinated impact and where people are heading in the same direction, but there's still not quite the power. And the real power comes in this collective impact where there's this collaborative effort and all the energy, the synergy that comes from this. And I can recall some of my worst team experience, the disorder and maybe just individual impact, all the way to collective impact. And when I came across systemic team coaching, I knew I wanted to get better at being able to create that collective impact and have that transformational impact. And of course, I left the corporate world now a number of years ago, 20 years ago, and decided to go into coaching and get my certifications and wanted to work more on the human side. But it's not on just the human side, it's on the performance side as well, and helping teams to create more value. And so we know in today's world, we've got to change the way that we are thinking. We've got to move faster. We've got to be able to be more collaborative, work in partnership with others. There's got to be more teaming. It's different because it's a more challenging environment. I don't need to mention all the challenges in our environment. On top of that, we're expected to do more, create more quality, and with maybe fewer resources. That's the challenge. And so it causes us to rethink how we organize ourselves, how we go about our business. So part of my journey has been working with lots of different types of organizations, anywhere from nonprofits, such as in a church environment who's trying to find its own identity again. Many of you may know in the traditional church environment, there's been lots of upheaval about how to think about it and really helping create that new identity. So I've worked with churches in that realm as an example. In healthcare, I've worked around helping some organizations create more self-service to empower their patients or the people that work with them. In construction, I've actually worked with trying to help with how do we create more inclusiveness in a male-dominated environment. And then moving on to technology, an example would be working to create more of a coaching culture so that they're able to innovate better and help their customers create transformation. So that's a little bit of context, and I want to move into what our first objective is. And so how systemic team coaching distinguishes itself and its transformational potential. And I want to start, though, with the context of team coaching. Many of you know what team coaching is, but we will just level it so that we all are coming from a similar definition, and then talk about what is the systemic approach. So This is a busy slide, and this does come from the ICF, but I want to point out a couple of things because it is showing that in the development realm of teams, really coming from going on the left-hand side from team building, where team building might be the beginning of a team's journey to help them form and grow, and then moving on to training, which might be more event, to team consulting, to team mentoring, to facilitation. Where I really want to point your eyes are over to the right-hand side to team coaching. And what makes team coaching differently, it's less event-based and more of a longer-term journey over time. It's more teaming and partnering as a coach. And it's around not only the dynamics of the team, but around achieving the goals. And in the world of systemic, we'll talk more about that, about creating value. And so it's just what I really want to say about team coaching. Sometimes it gets confused also with group coaching, which it's not. So how do you know when you have a team? Well, first you're asking yourself, well, who does this team serve, right? And then thinking about what can this team uniquely do together that the world of tomorrow needs. Or another way of saying it is, what do we need or want to achieve that requires us to collaborate and be more than the sum of our parts? Another way is, what can we do together that we cannot do by working in parallel? That's more of a team. And you can see here, we want to take it further in saying that the client is the collective team. It's not the individuals. And it really is about creating this collaborative journey, as I mentioned, over time. And the coach really empowers the team by bringing new insights and tools and strategies and frameworks to help them work at their best. Now, one of the concepts we're moving them from a good team to maybe high performing to high value creating. And what I want to point out is in systemic team coaching, we're moving beyond high performing. And the reason we want to do that is that often when we think of high performing, there can be a sense of arrival, like you've gotten there, or maybe a ticking the box to say, this is what a high performing team is. Or maybe it also creates competition between teams. Whereas taking it a step further, it's about creating high value creating teams where the team is creating greater beneficial value with and for its stakeholders. It's one of the key differentiators, the high value. And I wanted just to share because Peter Hawkins, who I've been very much involved in his work through my training programs, he is a thought leader. And so I thought it was important to bring the definition that he shares with us. And that is a process by which a team coach works with the whole team, both when they're together and when they are apart, in order to help them improve both their collective performance, and just notice collective, not individual, and how they work together and how they develop their collective leadership to more effectively engage with their stakeholder groups and really be able to jointly transform the wider business. I think it's so worth noting because this is the context by which everything begins with systemic team coaching. So let's talk about the lenses of systemic team coaching. In the lenses, there are 6 lenses. And which we start with the individual, and you can see expands out to interpersonal, to the team dynamics, to the team's purpose, roles, and tasks, the stakeholders interface, all the way out to the whole entire ecosystem, which could be including things about what they are faced in the politics, or what they're, what's going on economically in the world, and what may be impacting the team. And what I have found in bringing this lens, not only am I bringing this to teams, but I find myself bringing it to my individual coaching clients as well. Because what I recognize is when they come into a session with me, they're bringing their whole system. And oftentimes they're, particularly in an executive coaching situation, or even if it's, an emerging leader, they're bringing in the system. An example might be, I was working with a COO, and it started out as an individual coaching piece, and he had just been promoted, and he was looking at his interpersonal relationships within his team. He was also looking at how could he create the best team dynamics, and also look at himself being seen as the leader. And then he began looking at, how do I form this team? How do I form that we're working as a team? And how do we interface with our stakeholders, which are our employees, our suppliers, our partners, our board? And interesting about this, while we began as an individual coaching relationship, it moved into a team coaching, because he wanted to help really bring his team together. And interestingly enough, they had just introduced their brand, and they wanted to look at how were they going to lead their brand, and what would the organization need to do to lead their brand, that they would have an impact with their customers, with their suppliers. So just an example that systemic team coaching can begin with the individual, and you can actually do team coaching with that individual alone. And one of the other very specific things about systemic team coaching is we look at future fit, and looking at three horizons oftentimes. But remember, what's so important is to look ahead in systemic team coaching, so it's future back. And this is a model that was developed by Bill Sharp, and it's a tool for you as well, looking at the horizons, where the first horizon is the immediate, the business as usual, which is often where companies will get stuck. Second horizon is innovating for the future. The third horizon is having the foresight and looking at the challenges that will require radical change. And here's sort of an exercise that I've done with individual clients as well as with a team, but to see how are they really doing. And this is a great, simple, fast exercise in asking a team, or even a leader that you're working with, what % of your week do you spend on each of these horizons? Now, one of the things that's important to note is that Bill Sharp suggests that we look at Horizon 1, but go to Horizon 3 before going to Horizon 2. So you might take that in for a moment. Well, why would he want to do that? Well, one particular reason is that to be able to look at the future in order, so Horizon 3 really gets that foresight to be able to go back and start innovating. Otherwise, if you innovate in Horizon 2 based on your immediate business, it'll just be more of a continuous improvement versus the innovation you're looking for. You're more innovating for today versus tomorrow. So it's a tool, but it's very much embedded in systems thinking. So let's keep going. looking at a framework for guiding teams towards creating greater value. So I love this model, and this is called the 5-discipline model. And I'm going to go through each piece so you can really take it in. And maybe some of you have seen it before, and maybe you'll take it in, maybe you'll get something that you haven't seen before, or think of something that maybe you need to be doing more of. So notice it's outside in. And so we start in systemic team coaching, we start with thinking about the stakeholders' needs first, outside in. And what is important to point out is that the team doesn't create the purpose. The purpose creates the team because it comes through the stakeholder needs. So again, the purpose is not created by the team. The purpose emerges from stakeholder needs. And you can see the first step is the commissioning. It's why. Why are we doing this work? And ensuring what the expectations are and what the team must deliver. It's setting the direction. How often have you gone into a project and it hasn't been clear about the direction? Next piece, now notice we're going to go inside. And it's about the team tasks. Once we understand stakeholder needs, we look at clarifying the what. And that means we're going to get aligned around this purpose. Be sure we're clear about the purpose, the roles, the goals, the working together. So it is really around the, it's really around the priorities, the structure for going forward. And then we move in from there. We look at the team relationships, the co-creating. It's the how. How do we optimize how we work together? It's the team dynamics and the team culture. It's also about how we generate new thinking and get in diverse ideas. And again, that's inside. And by the way, oftentimes when we think about team coaching, it's more from this approach. It's more looking at, I know often I've been called in, like, can you fixing the team dynamics. They're not getting along. And that sometimes is the impetus, but you find out that there's something far beyond. Or you never had a team of partners and they were all complaining about each other and they couldn't get anything done. But what really, when we started going much deeper, what really was the problem is they didn't have a clear direction, a clear vision for where they were heading. And so that made a big difference, just as an example. So again, this left side is often where we stay. And then moving over to the fourth component, see how we're going back outside again, is a focus on the relationships. And partnering and it's really trying to represent the whole. So that's part 4. That's the discipline 4. And then we go into discipline 5. And that is to embed learning, to embed a learning culture where we reflect in each of these places, because that's where learning happens. We can have lots of successes. We can also reflect on our failures, and failures are really, really important. We call them in systemic team coaching quality failures, because we look at what we've learned from it. We reflect on it. We look at what we can integrate and to make better. And so this is the model for systemic team coaching. You can also see that we're embedding learning throughout, and also just note that in a team coaching journey, you might start any place in this. They might call you in, but you'll find that there's so much more that needs to be uncovered I know I've talked about a lot here, and I want you to think for a moment about what has been your best team. Think about your best team you've ever been on. And you might think about, was there, with that best team, was there a sense of shared purpose, direction, taking in stakeholders? Think about your best team. What was happening? What made it your best team? And you might even put in the chat, what were some qualities of your best team? Karen, anything?
Yes, diversity in all forms, listening and respecting each other's ideas, respect for one another. Respect is showing up quite a bit. Trust
Uh-huh.
is showing up.
Uh-huh.
Clarity of the mission and vision.
Yes.
Laugh. Listen to this one: laughter, trust, fun, and learning together.
Yes. Yeah. What else? Anything
Common
else?
common goal, unity in the purpose, highly committed and flexible. We were on a mission together, aligned purpose and goals, common goal, collaboration and trust, connection, shared vision, worked well together, self-starter, took responsibility for their function and took pride in their work. Trust,
Yeah.
trust, shared
Trust is,
purpose. Yes,
yeah. Nice.
yes.
Nice. And you can probably even see where some of these showed up, right?
And
Now I want,
listen to this one, Dale.
uh,
Magical results.
uh,
Magical results.
yeah. There is nothing like a team that is really flowing. And what I would say, they're all in the same dance. Um, Sometimes you've been on a team and people are listening to different music or they're dancing in different directions. But boy, there's nothing like it when they are in sync and what can be accomplished. And there's also the pain of a team that's not working so well. Think about your team that was the worst team you've ever been on. What was the worst team? Bring it to mind. And in the chat, what were some of the things that made it the worst team? The qualities. Not that they were bad people. They weren't bad people. It's just the team, how the team interacted or what was going on.
How about ego, posturing?
Mm,
Too many egos.
uh-huh.
Competition, distrust, lack of skills, no accountability, self-serving interest, no vision, no trust, anger even. Egos or shared outcomes for the common good, lack of direction, no trust, ulterior motives, not listening to each other, lack of understanding, different agendas,
Mm,
disastrous results,
the pain.
micromanage, leadership versus team, no follow through.
Pain.
Right.
Very painful. We've all been on those painful teams before. And I would say sometimes it's hard to find that team that is at that really creating value stage. But boy, it feels good when a team is in that kind of sync. And so I want you just to yourself, think about that team that didn't work so well. um, just reflect to yourself what might have been, when you look at this model, what might have been a particular discipline that would have helped this team. Just hold that. What might have been a discipline that could have had the greatest impact on this team and moving forward in their and being more effective. And you might write that down. So now I want to invite you to take a photo of this slide. Let's take a photo of it because we're going to go into an activity into small groups. And hopefully you've got that. Now let's move on. This is what we're going to do together. This is the best and worst team experience. We've already done the work on recalling your best and your worst team experience. So you're going to be in a breakout group of 3 to 4 people. And I'd like for you to discuss together what stood out as the best team experience. And you might, to make it simple, you might come up with just a few words because we won't have a long time. And then we want you to move into your, let's see if you're following me. I'm under discuss your experience. What made the worst team experience so difficult for you? And maybe how did it impact you personally, the team? And this is in relation to the worst. And then finally, the last step, reflect, and you've already done some choosing. Choose the discipline that could optimize the impact of the effectiveness of this worst team and share it within your group. And you want to be ready to come back and share a reflection in the chat. Questions? Karen, do you see any questions?
I see no questions. I see ready to go. So here we go. Enjoy.
Have fun. Enjoy. Enough and caused a lot of that confusion in a lot more time. So let's move on. And Karen, I'm going to bring up the slides again.
Okay.
Where I'd like to take you now is to share with you just a general systemic team coaching approach, what the journey might look like. I know this is a really full slide, so I'm going to point out some things to you, and I'm hoping you can see my cursor okay. And one at the very beginning, we're talking about scoping, and I imagine many of you already do this for any assignment, but it is scoping and building that partnership and then contracting for what I would call the first phase, which really is around this inquiry process. And the inquiry is really learning, who the stakeholders are and inquiring what are the challenges, what are the experiences, what do they see is going to be needed for the future. Oftentimes, teams will use in the systemic world, there is a systemic team coaching, a 360 that can be used. You can use a 360 either by interviewing, or actually there's some tools on the market that you can use that can help you. I'm going to move on to developing the agenda. Once we do the inquiry phase and get that input from stakeholders, really 360, as well as inside the team, we look at developing the agenda. And I would say this is very much a co-creation stage. You're working with the team to look at what the findings are and making sense of the data and coming up with what the team coaching journey will look like. Typically at that stage, we will be identifying what the goal might be based on what might be the top priority. What could be a collective goal that they could work on together that will create transformation. So developing the agenda and co-creation. Then we say executing the engagement. By the way, the engagement is beginning up in the front, but this is where the next stage. And there's contracting here. So you're going to set at the end of your co-creation, you'll know more about what the journey is going to look like, and you recontract. you recontract to be sure that we're all, we are all together in it and partnering on where we are heading. And typically what the journey might look like is it can be done virtually, it can be done in person. Of course, much of this, we all probably had a lot more learning during the pandemic around working virtually. So we've gotten more effective at that, but certainly in person is ideal. And you can have workshops. Someone said that interpersonal dynamic, sometimes before you can get to creating the goal together, it may be that you're working on the interpersonal dynamics and maybe looking at what the strengths of the team are together, like Clifton strengths, or doing some type of communication assessment, an MBTI, to really to be able to look at what are the styles so they can work better together, and also begin building some of that psychological safety. And of course, that continues on. You'll see also within this, there's coaching with the team members and the team leader. Now, remember, this is not executive coaching. So the coaching is done in the context of the team. So it's really how in working with that team. And each of the team members the same. You'll also notice here coaching teams in business as usual meetings. And that's really about helping the team to be more effective in their meetings. An example could be, and you're going to contract, you're always going to be contracting, as Karen and I talk about the macro contract and the micro. But even at each meeting, you are contracting for what you will be doing in service of that team. And it's always in service of the team. But getting back to business as usual, one approach might be inviting the team at the very beginning. Would it be all right if we pause the meeting and we check in with where we are? Or sometimes it might be, let's call a halftime. And in that halftime, and again, you're contracting with the team, and that halftime you might be asking, so what is going well so far? What would we change? As an example, it's just a simple technique that helps teams, but again, helping their performance and to stay on track. It could be asking them a question about, how are we doing in being on track? So it continues on, and it could be more or less of this. Each journey is different, and I'll show you an example of a real journey in a moment. And then finally, there's always at the end a review to look at what the learning is and how they're going to sustain their learning together.
Dale, we have one question, Dale.
Yes.
Where does the storming, norming, forming, and conforming process come in this model?
I would say that's throughout. It's throughout, but hopefully that's one of the things, and I'm glad you said that, because the coach is tending to a lot of relationships. The coach needs to tend to the relationship between the team members, between the team members and the team members, the team and the stakeholders, and stakeholders to stakeholders. So it's something that's tended to create that psychological safety and begin building, going through that particular. We don't necessarily, you could use that model, but obviously that's one of the underpinnings, and it may vary from team to team, but it is tended to, because you've got to deal with the dynamics. And many of the things, by using the disciplines, it addresses it. And I'm sure that's a very general answer, but that's it's probably the best for where we are right now, because it is uniquely different for each team. And thank you for the question, because it is something that is important, an important consideration. So what is the role of the team coach? Obviously, to be collaborative, you become responsible not only for the effectiveness, but you share the responsibility in the improved outcomes. And again, just as a coach, you're not telling or directing, but asking questions and being curious. And some may ask, how long does a journey last? It's generally 6 to 12 months. It could be 4, not likely. It could go out to 2 years. But it's the whole idea is that of what's important is that one of the outcomes is to make sure that the team is ready to coach themselves. It's not to continue to stay in role of coach over many years, although some decide to keep them longer. But hopefully what you're doing is helping the team to build momentum and capacity to lead and to coach themselves. So I want to give you an example of a journey that I took with a team. And usually a team coaching endeavor will start with identifying stakeholders. And we get clear on what is a stakeholder, because some people have different definitions, but with the team, we get clear about that. And it's any person, group, or team that may be impacted or have an impact on the work of the team. And in this particular situation, I was working with a city, and this is, it was the development services support team. And some of their key stakeholders, the ones they interacted most often with, was the city council, their direct reports, and other teams within the organization. This team had a big accountability to help evaluate development efforts. Did they make it? Were they bringing something positive to the city? What would be the challenge? And of course, they were challenged because their stakeholders felt they couldn't go fast enough, and they were really a barrier to getting things done. These were some of their other stakeholders that were involved, and that had, in fact, government and regulatory. One of the big problems is that many of their stakeholders did not understand the regulations that they had to deal with. So it also appeared as there were a lot of delays as we did the assessment with these folks, a lot of delays in getting the work done. And one of the problems was that this particular team, they had 3 departments, like a 3-legged stool, and they weren't together. And these particular processes all had an impact on one another, but they were not woven together, and therefore created duplications of effort for many of their stakeholders, and had gained a pretty bad reputation. And so one of the things we did was to look at what could they do. And so they came up with a goal to merge their processes and to work better together. And that was the goal, but here is the process that they used to map out their journey and how they would go about managing the process. And so it's just a tool. Many of you have seen this fishbone tool, but it was very effective in mapping out the milestones, how it would be done, but also looking at what was the future state that they would be moving toward. So what did the journey look like? They had a skill building workshop, and it started actually with their team dynamics. One of the big problems is they were struggling. There was low trust, and we had to work through building that trust. And one particular piece that was very helpful is we developed team agreements, and they weren't just a list of agreements that we put on the wall. We actually worked through them. Like one of them was around listening, and we had to talk about what did listening truly look like. It made such an impactful difference in developing trust and how they work together. And so again, it's not a list, it's for exploring. And it took a couple of sessions to do that, and also to say, how are they doing on it? So it was surprisingly how impactful that was, that going back to their team formation and moving and from the storming of where they were to moving into performing. And you can see we did business as usual meetings. We had coaching sessions where they worked on their goals. We had team check-ins, monthly leader coaching. You can see we had a final review on their progress and how were they going to be able to move it forward. So that is one example. Another example that I wanted to share was around a journey that I took with some women in construction. And one of the pieces that they wanted to do, and this came coming from their stakeholders, and this were the leaders of the company. They came out with their vision, mission, and values, and they wanted to grow. They wanted to grow by X% over the years to be significant, twice their size. And in order to do that, they had to attract talent, and it meant attracting more female talent. And in order to do that, it meant being a more cultivating more inclusiveness. How could they make it more welcoming for diversity? It was a start with women and then building that pipeline. And these were some of the results. Forget what's on this page, but I just wanted to, I'm going to share just a couple of things that were so impactful. But one thing that really happened is these women got more visibility, and they worked with male mentors that were top leaders of the company. And they began to get a better understanding of one another. And it was just remarkable in terms of what happened from that perspective, and even at a senior leader perspective, and even their relationships. It also, we saw women getting promoted. There were no women in management. Almost, I won't say all these women were promoted, but they had new opportunities. Also, there was a greater visibility of this effort, and the purpose of the visibility was to create that environment. And it was not only internally, it was externally. One of the things that was striking that the leader said to me at the very beginning of this journey, he said, we want to shift the perspective of construction, in that it is not just a male-dominant industry where it's a last resort career for men. We want it to be a viable career where men and women can advance. So this was extremely systemic. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that in the end, and it was a pilot, we had to create a sustainable plan. And today we've done that, and they are continuing on. And the whole goal up front was that they would be able to take the reins, which they have. And so these are the women, and one of the final sessions of where we had our content around sustaining and growing a success. So I'm very proud of these women to take the lead, and they have paved the way to keep moving forward. But obviously, it's not them alone that can make the progress that's needing, but they are really, really very a part of a big systemic change. So we're going to move on. Those are just a couple of examples to talk about Objective 3, ways to amplify your coaching presence and embody a coaching mindset. And I want to share this tool. It's called your API, which stands for your authority, presence, and impact. And the key here, when you think about your authority is your experience. It also enables you to walk into a room. It is the presence. All these really have an impact on presence and your mindset. But being clear about the authority, that's your background, your experience, and how you've earned the right to be in the room. So that's important. How do you carry that in an appropriate way? And it also is how do you show clear boundaries? Presence, ability to build that rapport, cultivate connection. And how do you engage people at that personal level with warmth, with eye contact? How are you attentive to the energy in the room and the spoken and the unspoken? How do you maintain your composure and curiosity? What is it that you are doing and are being to create connection? And then finally, on impact, it's, how are you helping the team to explore beneath the surface? How are you creating those emotional shifts? Maybe you're holding the mirror up to what's going on, or how are you bringing those new perspectives? Even how are you shifting your own energy to shift the energy in the room? It's your impact. You have a tremendous impact, both in the presence you bring and how you are shifting the thinking in the room. So I know I'm being really short. I wanted to bring this tool because it's something you can come back and explore. And Karen, I would love it. Do we have time to go to break out in pairs for a few minutes? Karen, you're on mute.
We most certainly can do that. I think we're going to have 2 minutes each. So 4 minutes total for each partner to talk.
Yes, so let me bring you there. So this is the slide, so you know what you're doing. And so think about, when you think of the model, think about 1 or 2 strengths you already have and what might be a growth opportunity. You might not as much have, if you have time to share the why. But most important is to share what are your 2 strengths and what's the growth opportunity. All right. So questions before we go.
Here we go.
Did you get Roshimi?
I am doing that right now.
Okay. And you may have to put 3 in a room.
I may have to. Let's see. Room 8. And here we go. Let's find you a room to go to right here.
I would give them 1 extra minute. I think we're all right. How are we doing? It was a whirlwind tour, wasn't it?
Well, we're at 12:51, so we're
okay. Okay.
So I don't know how to add them an extra minute. I don't know how to do that.
Well, then don't worry.
Let me see if I can broadcast.
You don't need to broadcast, just don't take them out. The question will come up, to give them another minute. But that's okay. That's all right. It's going to be quick. At least they saw the model.
Okay, I think I can.
It's okay, Karen. Don't worry about it. I didn't mean to stress you.
I'm not stressed.
Okay. You've done fabulous. For not feeling well, you're going to be ready to kick your feet up.
I'm going to get Skylar.
Oh. They really want to participate, don't they? Isn't that awesome?
They do. They do. Okay.
It's okay. Let them come back. It's all right.
Yeah, they're going to come back.
That's okay. They have a minute on that when they come back anyway. That's okay. We're good. I'd like to, what did they learn? And then as they go out, if you put in the chat, what have you appreciated about today, our time together?
Well, I have some logistical things.
Oh,
So
okay.
after you do yours, come back to me.
Okay. Annie, you've been a good girl.
She has been.
She has been a good girl. And this is
Oh dear, I left the recording on. Maybe Angie can record this part out.
oh, they're coming back. Welcome back. I know it was a very short time to be together. I hope you were able to share a strength. I'm curious, is there anybody who would be willing to share a strength they already have or that they heard? Yes. Rashimi.
I can share.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I got paired with Amber, and I think we both agreed that we like to dig deeper when talking to people, when coaching, and we love peeling the layers of the onion. And I think that's what kind of makes up our unique strengths.
Great. And if you're open to, or someone else, what is an area you wanted to grow?
Mary Jo is another volunteer.
I wanted to share from my partner's view because she has global experience, and I think that is just a great strength. And that was Sally Edmondson. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Mary Jo. Another strength.
Kelly is available.
Yeah. Both my partner and I were talking about one of the things that I've learned to become more comfortable with, and this also has to do with global, is that I think as Americans, we tend to fill space with words. And as a coach, it's really a gift to give somebody time to think about the question that you've asked and to just be present with that silence and listen to them and give them the time to reflect before they answer.
Nice. Yeah, so what I'd like to do is we're going to need to close out. We're almost near time, and I want to hand it back to Karen. And before we do that, I would like to ask, what is one thing you're taking away today? And I'd like you to invite you to put it in the chat, and then I will hear from a couple of people. What are you taking away today that is beneficial for you? What are you taking away?
I can go.
Yes. And please put them in the chat as well, and who'd share out loud. Yeah.
So to me, I think one of the things is important in team coaching or anything which is a team activity, when a person or as a coach does both one-on-one and team, that the dynamic is very different. That as a coach, we still take our coaching tools, but there's a bit of an adaptability that comes along with it, because you're not really getting that one-on-one connection in the privacy of a separate space, rather with a whole bunch of people at the same time. But it is possible, and it can be still very, very effective, because sometimes people when we become very comfortable in doing one-on-one, and you sit in front of the entire room, it almost looks like, is anybody even getting this or benefiting from this? So having trust that it is still a very, very impactful tool.
Thank you so much. Uzma, have I got that right? Yeah, thank you. We are nearly out of time, and I need to pass it back to Karen, but I would like to, in the chat, if you would, what is one thing you're appreciating about being together today in this session? What is one thing, if you could just put it in the chat, that'd be great.
Dale, one of the things that's a highlight of their previous comments is an appreciation of the discipline model. The 5
Yes.
disciplines was greatly appreciated, and that also the API model was very powerful in terms of us thinking about our own impact as coaches.
Yes.
So learning from others, lots of coaches out there. It's great to meet everyone virtually. Thank you, Scott, for that. The breakout rooms are always a hit. Now, some of you are worrying. This is on your worry list. Are we getting the recording? And the answer is a resounding yes. You will be getting the recording from this session. So some of you that thought it started at one time will not miss a minute of this wonderful presentation. Dale, you've taken us from big picture to the details of what makes systemic team coaching successful. We're certainly appreciative of that. And I invite everyone to find your reaction button in your toolbar, and let's show some appreciation to Dale right now for her incredible presentation to us today. You will be receiving, yay, some more appreciation. You will be receiving 1.5 core competency in your CCE certificate. So all of that will be forthcoming from Angie when she returns to Tennessee and back to her computer. So all of that is to come. And we are so appreciative of your presence today. And Dale, mostly we are appreciative of your expertise and knowledge in sharing with us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Karen. What a privilege to be with this group. And thank you so much.
Bye. Dale, I did save the chat because there's so much.
Okay. Do you want to stop recording?